Today, my guest is a former six-time women's knockout champion. She's a former knockout tag team champion, and most recently, she is a TNA Hall of Famer, one half of the most iconic women tag teams of all time, Miss Angelina Love. Angelina, how are you?
Doing wonderful. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for taking the time out today. I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
So, when you were getting into professional wrestling, what was it that hooked you to make you want to pursue this? And at that time, like growing up, or what age you decided to pursue this, was that a achievable dream of yours that you thought at the time?
Well, I mean, the first time I stumbled upon wrestling, I was like 7 or 8 years old. So I mean, I wanted to be like a million things growing up. A singer, but I can't sing, a hockey player, but I can skate, but I can't actually play hockey. There was a million things I wanted to be, but just wrestling was the thing that I just fell more and more into. Because I was just so mesmerized by it the first time I ever saw it. So, once I became a teenager, the obsession was pretty intense. And then I mean, I started when I was 18, so
Was that accessible where you were at to get into wrestling schools?
yes, I wasn't aware of it at
Hmm.
first because like unless you know about the indies, you don't know about the indies. You know what I mean? So I had only known like WWF, WCW, and ECW, right? So
Hmm.
I used to play so on like WWF.com, they used to have like a trivia
Hmm.
game that you could play, and then it's like a little chat room and stuff. And I got to talking to somebody named Brian, who was um he was an indie ring announcer, like in St. Louis, I think,
Hmm.
or somewhere in Missouri. And I was like, yeah, like I want to be a wrestler, like, whatever. But I had no clue how to get into it. Um, and so he had kind of explained to me like what the indies were. And he's like, where are you from? And I told this person over the internet where I was from, which was not smart, but it was fine. And he went and like searched like Ontario indie promotions and like emailed me a couple links to websites. And I was like, oh, like I had no idea this existed. And so I had my best friend Julie come over and take pictures of me in the backyard. And I wrote up like a little like one paragraph bio of myself and I just wrote emails and I just sent it to any contact that I could find on those websites. And I want to say maybe it took like 2 weeks to hear back the first time. And it was like, yeah, like we'll have you come to our show and whatever. And then that's kind of how I started. It was like a couple months later.
What was your first initial thoughts of the indies versus what you were seeing on TV?
I don't think I had a comparison thought. It was just really cool, like to
Hmm.
be there, I wasn't thinking like, wait a minute, like this isn't WWF, like it was just like I was really nervous. I had a girlfriend come with me, my dad came with us. Um, and I just thought it was really cool. I wasn't disappointed or anything of the sorts. It was just like it's a lot to learn and because
Hmm.
I just my first show I was on the show. So I kind of you just kind of like learn on the spot. So
Was it easier than what you thought, or was there some things that were a struggle for you initially getting into wrestling?
um not I mean there wasn't really a struggle. At first when you're like the new girl, it's a little blood in the shark tank type
Hmm.
thing. And I'm like 18 years old, blonde hair, and I'm like, I want to be a wrestler. And all the guys were like, I mean, okay, because like at the time on the Ontario Indies, I mean, if you were a female and you were actually wrestling, you were probably working for like Ron Hutchinson's promotion, and if you worked for him, you could only do those shows. So like that's like where Gail and Tracy Brooks were. So I didn't know of them quite then. So for me, like the indies that I was doing, which was like everything else in Ontario, if there was a female on the show, they were just a valet and it was either one of the wrestlers' girlfriends or like a random stripper in the locker room. And so like here I come and I'm like, I want to be a wrestler and I'm gonna make it to WWF and da 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 da. And everyone was like, we don't ever hear this. But it also got me a lot of respect very quickly because I think everybody was like, oh, this isn't just somebody's girlfriend or a stripper. Like this is somebody who actually has like knowledge of wrestling and like knows who people are and watches the product. Like this
Hmm.
is odd. Um, so that's just kind of really how I started. And I just started off managing. I managed for like a year and a half, took a couple bumps in a couple matches, knocked myself out, of course, because I didn't know what I was doing. But I was just bored, man. I was so bored. Like
Hmm.
I had never planned on being a wrestler. I just wanted to be a manager. I wanted to manage Shawn Michaels. That was the goal. Um, but I just, man, I just got bored because I was managing two very nice guys. They were the Texas Hellraisers. We're all blondes, but it was just like, they were always working the same two guys, and I always had the same two spots. And after like a year and a half, you're like, it's so boring. I'm like,
Hmm.
I need to progress in whenever I do something, I need to be able to progress. So I remember one day I was like, I mean, I'm just gonna try to wrestle. And my mom was like, I thought you just wanted to be a manager and like stay on the outside of the ring and be safe. And I'm like, well, I've already knocked myself out like twice, as a manager doing things that I'm not trained to do. So I might as well train.
So when did you, obviously during this time period, you wanted to do other things and branch out. When did you start working your way out of that area and start getting your name out there, you feel?
Well, basically, and this is kind of like what I tell everybody that like if somebody's new into wrestling and they ask me like, hey, like how do I get more exposure or get like more bookings or whatever? I said, man, for me, I emailed as many places I could first and foremost, right? And then it's kind of like a snowball effect. Like once you go work your first show or your first couple of shows, there's usually maybe like another promoter there, or
Hmm.
the guys who are working the shows work for other indies too. And then, maybe they mention you to another promoter and they need a girl on the show. So then they'll hit you up and then you go do that show. And then there's somebody else that knows somebody and they're like, hey, we need a girl on our show in a month from now. And that's just kind of how it went. And then I was
Hmm.
doing every indie in Ontario and then started getting booked like across the border, like in Detroit and Ohio, like Buffalo, Pennsylvania. Like there was a lot of places. So then come like, what was it, 2002 or three? I was like, I just need to move down to the States, because a lot of us were getting popped at the border too, crossing, like we all had to like wear like our gear under our clothes and like not really, and I had excuses to cross each border. Like I actually had an aunt who lived in Michigan. So I would always say I was going to see my aunt, whatever. So like, but we were all doing that. Um, and it just became a thing where I was like, I can't stay like in Canada and really get to where I want to be. I need to get down to the States.
Was that nerve-wracking for you to be able to make that initial move and keep growing yourself out there? Because that were you wrestling, were you traveling with certain people, or was this where you were on your own when you moved to the States branching out?
Well, I moved to the States on my own, but I moved in with a buddy of mine and his girlfriend. And then 4 or 5 months after that was when I got my tryout. And then I ended up getting signed out of that. So, I always traveled with, I mean, there was a whole bunch of us on the Ontario Indies. Gail, Tracy Brooks, Beth Phoenix, um, Johnny Swinger, Eric Young, Sean Spears, Cody Diener, Chris Chambers, Sin, and his brother, my trainer Rob Fuego. Like it's a whole like a who's who, you know what I mean? So we would all travel together. I traveled with Sin a lot. He was like my silly older brother. Traveled with Gail some, Tracy, when we were all driving when TNA was running at the fairgrounds in Nashville doing like their Wednesday pay-per-views. I mean, a whole bunch of us would hop in a car, Gail, Tracy, Sin, Eric Young, like we would drive 12 hours down to Nashville just to show up and be around the show. And, we would just get a hotel room or just drive back. Everybody would take turns. We'd drive 12 hours back to Toronto. And I mean, that ended up helping a lot of us because a lot of us got put on those shows and eventually like signed by them at some point. So
How
yeah,
did your tryout come to be? Did you reach out to them? Did they reach out to you?
the WWE one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so ODB and I were living in an apartment in Nashville, and she had done the Tough Enough. She was on one of the Tough Enough things. I think it was a short stint for her doing the Tough Enough thing, but they knew who she was, she had already been going backstage. I had never done that yet. So, you know, I got like the best couple pictures I could of myself. This was a long time ago. You get your 8x10, right? Couple 8x10s, and you flip it around and you write on the back your real name, your work name, your age, your height, your weight, where you're from, who you work for, whatever championships you have, whatever, right? And we had gone to OVW and given it to Tom Pritchard. He was training there. And I think he gave, because I think he might have been in talent relations and I can't remember. I think he was, but I gave him my stuff. But then he ended up phasing out and Tommy Dreamer came in. So I was in Nashville and I got the call. The tryout was the last week of November and the first week of December 2004. And I can't even remember who actually contacted me and asked me to do it. But it was kind of like it was half indie girls and it was half wrestlers' girlfriends and models. This big female tryout that they had. And they were just impressed with the fact that I had a background because it was like Diva Search girls were coming down too to like learn how to do everything from the ground up. So the fact that I had like had 4 years under my belt and like knew how to like bump and hit the ropes, they were like, oh my gosh, like this is incredible. Like, and I mean, within 2 days of the 2 week tryout, I knew I was going to get signed. So yeah, so they had contacted me to go do it. However, Lance Storm and Bill DeMott were the trainers at OVW at that time. They were not told that this was happening. So I go in, I'm the first one to get there because I'm driving from Nashville to Louisville. So I'm like way early. I don't want to be late. And I go in there and Lance Storm is in there and there's like nobody else in there. And he's just kind of like, hello, like, who are you? And I'm like, it's tryout, da, da, da. And he was like, what? Like, he had no idea what I was talking about. He was very skeptical. And I think he must have got on the horn with somebody and they were like, oh yeah, like maybe we forgot to tell you there's like this 2 week like girl tryout that you guys are doing. And then him and I just got to talking a little bit and then I told him I was from Canada. So like insta brownie points with Lance. And then like, you know, some of the other girls came and man, I remember there was a girl that they flew in from England when they totally got catfished with her. Like the person that showed up was not even close to the person in the pictures. And I mean, she was flown home as quickly as possible. Flown back as quickly as possible. But that was my first go of everything.
So you knew you were going to get signed. When did they actually sign you? Was it before that tryout was over?
No. So at the beginning, so what we did was we did the tryout and once it was I think the finish of it was going to Raw and SmackDown. It was like Huntsville, Alabama was Raw and SmackDown was Nashville. That's when Daniel Puder won the Tough Enough thing. Because we had all gone out to that Hooters that we always used to go to in Nashville after TNA. And I remember he brought it in with him and like put it on the table. And I was like, no, this is embarrassing. What are you doing? And at that SmackDown, I think Johnny Ace had told me that they were going to sign me, but they were going overseas to do like that Christmas tour of the troops thing that they would do every year. So I would probably hear something later, like in the month or like maybe towards the new year. I mean, I wasn't hearing anything. And at this point, Tommy Dreamer was in talent relations. And I'm just like at home in Canada, like, you know, like I'm gonna be signed, but like I don't actually have, it's not concrete yet. You know, I got the verbal, but I don't have the physical. And I remember, I think I contacted Tommy like once or twice, just like, hey, like, you know, I was just told I was gonna be hired, so I don't know. I just want to make sure I'm still on the radar. And if somebody's supposed to send me something, just want to make sure you got my correct address. And then come the end of January 2005, they sent me my contract.
Was it a struggle being from Canada to get signed? Because I know a lot of people had a lot of issues being signed and then immediately going down there like there was a waiting period.
No, because they were starting DeepSouth. So I had the choice. When they hired me, I had the choice of going to OVW and starting right away or waiting until they open this new developmental territory in Georgia. And I was like, and I will never know if this was the right or wrong decision, but OVW was packed, like
Hmm.
jam packed. And I was like, man, I worried that if I went there, I would immediately get lost in the shuffle. But with starting this new developmental territory, I'm like, this is going to be on everybody's radar. It's new. Everybody will be new there, and it's not going to be such a big
Hmm.
group of people. So I had thought that maybe that was the better option. And obviously that was disastrous for most everybody, but that was just the choice I made. And it took a while because like I had signed my contract. I was actually, I think I had already started getting paid, and I'm from Canada, so I got to get a work visa. So I have to send them a giant packet of every show poster I've been on, if there was any newspaper articles about me, any matches that were like online that I could print off the internet because they need to show this to the government to show the government like, hey, this is somebody we need to have working for us. This is what they've done. This is what they do, whatever. And kind of like that's how you get your visa. Like the company has to get it for you from the government. So I was kind of sitting at home waiting for that for a little bit. And then they kept changing where DeepSouth was, the actual building was going to be. And then it ended up being in McDonough. And then I was down there. I think I moved down like maybe the end of April or it was, I think we all started the originals. I think it was May 2005.
So what was your first initial thoughts of what WWE Developmental was back then?
Well, it was fine. I mean, I don't really know that any of us had expectations. We were all just
Hmm.
early 20s and really happy to be there.
Hmm.
We're like, oh my God, we're all signing WWE, like whatever. And I mean, we didn't even have a building. We had a shell. We had a shell of the end of a strip plaza in McDonough, Georgia. So like it was just a ring and one of them big industrial fans. And like that was it. Like all of us helped to kind of build Deep South from the ground up, like physically. Not just in terms of like we made it something, but like physically we were building the inside of the building while we were wrestling training. And sometimes we couldn't go in there. So then we were going to this Gold's Gym that was across from where most of us lived in an apartment complex in the big like yoga room, studio room. And we were doing 4 hours of calisthenics and stuff on the floors and then doing cardio after. And it was just, that's what it was for like the first while, the
Hmm.
first good chunk of months that we were all down there. And I felt super determined because I was the only girl. So for the first 6 months, it was me and 16 guys. That was it. So I was like, queen, have to prove myself.
Hmm.
And I totally did. Like I totally did. And all of the guys there were very supportive of me too. There was no jealousy. Everybody like totally had my back, cheered me on, admitted when I could totally outdo them. And I mean, it was fine. It was fine. We had no expectations. We were just happy to be there. So
Was it just Bill doing the training at the time?
was that, yes. Yeah. Bill was the only one there to start.
So how was training doing that with you being the only woman there for so long?
It was okay. Like I said, I was just like Captain Determined. So
Hmm.
I was always about, you're young and full of piss and vinegar and all the things. And, so I mean, I was in WWE, like I was fine.
Going through Deep South, was there ever any ideas for you that maybe didn't come to fruition that they were pitching for you, or did you have to sort of pitch yourself a lot of the time?
Well, you have to pitch yourself no matter what. We were told at the time, like, there was a couple times that like creative came down. So, that was a big deal. And it was all like we were in school doing projects. Like we would go
Hmm.
to and like get a binder, like a 3-ring binder, and then you would have like a table of contents. It was like a project, like because what we were told was if you want to get brought up to TV, you have to have like 80% of an idea to be able to give to creative so they can put their little 20% spin on it and then call it theirs. And then,
Hmm.
maybe you get up on the roster, but then there's also the chance that they take your idea and they like it for somebody else who's already on TV and they give it to somebody who's on TV and you're just sitting down in developmental like WTF, you know? Um, so, wait, bring me back to the question again.
Was there anything that didn't come to fruition that was pitched to you, or you
Oh,
were
yes.
pitching to them?
Well, no, so nothing I pitched. Um, from the minute I got there, I was always told like, you should be on the road. Like you should be on the road. Like you're good. You have the look. Like you should be on the road. And at first I was like, oh, thank you. Like what a compliment, you know, like I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then once you're there for like a year and a half and you're watching like Diva Search girls come
Hmm.
down and then go straight and go to TV and you're like, hold on a minute. I thought I was the one that should be on TV. Like I know what I'm doing. I'm good at this. I look good. And after a while, it's not a compliment anymore because when they're like, oh, you should be on the road and whatever. And you're like, yeah, so why aren't I?
Hmm.
Just wondering because I don't know. I don't have any answers here. There was one time, I think I managed somebody on a house show they did in Macon, Georgia. I still have the run sheet for that show. Um, and it's a crazy lineup too. Uh, there was one time where I was supposed to be Matt Hardy's girlfriend. Um, what I was told was that day it was supposed to be it was a SmackDown. Matt Hardy versus, I think it was Super Crazy. And it was supposed to be a very quick match. And then I'm sitting in the crowd and I'm like, yeah, you know, and they're like, who's this girl? Like, oh, the camera. And then he'll come over and, you know, whatever. And then he just kind of goes off and that's kind of the intro, right? So I'm there and they've got the extra seat at the end of the first row. And so, of course, everybody's like looking at me because I've got TV makeup on, big blonde hair, and I'm this extra chair added to the row kind of sticking out. And you know, that's when they were doing like, was it Velocity? I think
Hmm.
Velocity was before SmackDown back in the day. So it was like dark match, Velocity. And then the opening segment was, King Booker knighting William Regal when he was doing the King Booker thing. So I'm sitting at ringside watching this. And once that's over, I'm like, oh my God, my segment's next. Like, this is crazy. Like, it's really happening. And right when the lights go down, because they're like, to go in a commercial or taking a break or something, it's supposed to be the first segment. So I get a big tap on my shoulder and I look up and it's the floor guy who sat me. And he was like, hey, we got to bring you to the back now. And I was like, what? No, I'm like, my segment's about to happen. Like it's now. And he was like, no, no, Vince cut the segment. We got to get you out of here. And I was like, what? Like what is going? And he's like, come on, we got to get you to the back before the lights go back. So he's like dragging me to the back, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be in that. So I guess what I ended up finding out what happened was that Vince rewrote the entire show as soon as the show was starting. So he cut that right away, and the match became I think Shane Helms ended up coming out on commentary. And then it was Matt Hardy versus Ken Anderson in like a two segment, like 20-minute match where Shane Helms like attacked Matt Hardy and turned on him. I mean, and I'm just backstage like, I don't even know. Like, and so, you know, I get sent home and then I heard like, you know, like, oh, you know, maybe, you know, this didn't work out, but we'll have you like in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania next week, whatever, whatever. And then like I'm in the gym doing cardio on Sunday night and like I still haven't heard anything. So I hit up Dreamer and I was like, hi, like this is what I was told at TV last week, but like I haven't heard anything. And he was like, well, if you haven't heard anything by now, it's probably not going to happen this week. Like, I'm sorry, like this happens. And so I was like, oh. And then another time was these two guys named the Shane twins. They were called the Gemini, but it was like Jim, like Gymini, because they were like twins and they were really big, jacked up guys. I was managing them. We got brought to, I think it was a SmackDown, for a dark match. And they worked, oh my gosh, who was it? Was it Funaki and Scotty Too Hottie? I think. It's just, man, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. It was not good. And we did that and then did not hear anything after that. And then they ended up getting released at a point after that as well. So those were the two things. And then one time I remember hearing like they needed a female backstage interviewer for ECW and it was between me and a Diva Search girl and they brought up the Diva Search girl and I was like, you know what? You know, and then but then I had been told, you know, by uh Mike Bucci was in talent relations at this point, and he was like, "You wouldn't have wanted that role anyway." He's like, "You're not a backstage interviewer. Like, you're a really good wrestler, so you wouldn't have wanted that role. So like, don't let that bother you."
Is there
Those were the things.
any is there any particular moment during Deep South that stands out more than others for you personally?
No.
No.
If you know the history of Deep South, there was something dramatic and ridiculous going on every single day. I did sustain my first major injury there. I tore my ACL training. So that was devastating because well, actually, this was actually the first thing that they had set for me. Jillian Hall was in JBL's cabinet.
Hmm.
JBL really liked me because that house show that we did that I was at in Georgia, in Macon, Georgia, he was on the card. And I don't think he was the biggest fan of like the Diva Search girls because he's real old school. Like if you're a female in the business, like you better know about the business. You better know how to do it, know people in the business, and actually have some kind of a passion for it. Uh, and I remember he was kind of giving me like a little grilling, like, like, am I college educated and how long have I been wrestling and who do I know, blah, blah, blah. And I think I blew him away. And we're still to this day very cool. Like my husband and I have been working with him like at AML and stuff. So, um, he was a big proponent of mine. I think just out of the respect fact that, I was busting my ass. I had actually been a wrestler. I've been watching it since I was a kid. I'm educated, whatever. So when Jillian was when he had the cabinet, she had that big thing on her face, right?
Hmm.
So Boogeyman bit that off and she goes off screaming. And she was supposed to be off TV for a while. He wanted me to be brought in as the new heel girl in the cabinet. And then months later, Jillian Hall would return as a babyface and her and I would feud. And so I was supposed to debut at the Royal Rumble 2006. And 2 weeks before that, I tore my ACL training.
Man,
So,
I hate to hear that.
and well, crazy, but I'm a big everything happens for a reason
Hmm.
person. Obviously you don't see it at the time. You are
Hmm.
devastated and whatever. So all the other storyline things that I had told you about, those were after I had come back from my knee surgery and was rehabbed and back to working. Um, and even like once I got into TNA and started being really successful, that's when I could sit back and go, okay, it did not work out for me
Hmm.
there because I probably would have mentally lost my mind there or emotionally, or I would have been really twisted and messed up. TNA was the best fit for me.
Hmm.
Velvet didn't get signed to WWE. I didn't make it in WWE. We both started there. We were able to come together to do the Beautiful People, which was 100% what we were meant to do. It was
Hmm.
not meant to be anything in WWE. So I'm like, I always wanted to have like my WrestleMania moment, but I'm completely at peace with that because I'm in the TNA Hall of Fame now. Like,
Hmm.
obviously, this was what I was meant to do over here on this side. So I'm quite fine with that.
When your initial release came with WWE, did you know professional wrestling was something you were still going to pursue?
Oh, 100%. I was only 25,
Hmm.
and I was really good. And I knew that, not in a cocky way. I just knew that I got this. Like, I know what I'm doing. I love this. So when TNA got in touch with me, um, it was only like 4 months or less after I got released. So of course, when I got released from WWE, devastation. I thought my life was over, dreams were over, had to move back to Canada, which I never foresaw happening,
Hmm.
living in my sister's spare bedroom. And I'm like, what is my life? But then, got the call for TNA. And that was like Terry Taylor, Scott Demore. They were there. Like I knew them from doing Demore's BCW shows when I was like
Hmm.
20 years old. Tracy was there, Gail was there, Sabin, Alex Shelley, like Storm, Chris Daniels. I mean, I knew so many people there already. So it was a very good fit. I was very comfortable being there. There was no strange vibes or anything that felt off. It was just like insta home. And still to this day, like being there 2 weeks ago, it still feels the exact same way. And I have been backstage at other companies where the
Hmm.
vibe was just totally wacky, totally chaotic. I'm a very energy feeling person, and I
Hmm.
was like a clock going backwards and spinning 7 ways internally. I was like, this is not me. This is not my vibe. Like I shouldn't 25 years in feel this way being backstage at a, you know, a locker room or whatever. So, but being at TNA, it's just like no stress. It's calm. It feels like home. It's a good supportive environment, and I love it. So that was always meant to be my
Mhm.
thing for sure.
I'm sure a lot of people tell you what their favorite moments are for you personally, but for what are the most memorable moments for you that mean the most during your time in TNA that people may
Well,
not
I
know?
mean, well, of course, I always, well, like obviously, like our debut at Bound for Glory. I mean, that
Yeah.
was, like I said in my speech, that was the birth of the Knockouts division, right? So something that I hold very near and dear to my heart is being an original in the
Hmm.
Knockouts division because like we started it and nobody can take that from us. You know what I mean? And I know that it was a sink or swim thing. They were just like, hey, like we have girls here that like really want to wrestle and we'll try this division. Like we'll see if people like it, you know, and it was the biggest thing they had going. So, so obviously that first Bound for Glory, because once when I got there, I was like, this is what I have been wanting to do. I'm on pay-per-view. I'm in an arena of 5,000 people. I'm wrestling. This is what I wanted to do in WWE. This is what I wanted to get to. But I'm doing it here at TNA and I'm doing it with my friends. And like, it was, man, it was so fun and awesome. And it was the best vibe that night and energy. We're all so nervous, but excited. And then I always want to say the first time I won the Knockouts title. However, I was completely unconscious on my feet. So I don't really have like a real genuine feeling of how that felt because I was not in my body at the time. But obviously, when you win the title, especially for the first time, it's an extreme validation. It shows that your superiors trust you to lead the division and be the face and the champion of this division for however long. So that's a huge compliment. Uh, I mean, I don't really have any favorite things with the beautiful people because the whole entire time
Hmm.
was a favorite. We were literally having the time of our lives and the most fun ever. We hated when they broke us up. Like we know you gotta like change storylines, but anytime Velvet and I broke up and had to work against each other, we were like, no, we can't do this. This is not right. It doesn't feel right. We hated working against each other. It was just like this is just something that just needs to be together. Like you can't break it up.
What
And
does it mean?
obviously, like now, like obviously in the Hall of Fame induction, that is the ultimate honor and validation. Because like we had done a thing backstage and we were there, and I was like, you know, nobody gets into wrestling thinking like I'm going to be in the
Hmm.
Hall of Fame, obviously. You know, like that's completely insane to think like, you know, that's going to happen one day. It was certainly never on my thought process, getting into wrestling or even being in TNA when I was in TNA. So that is like the ultimate honor and validation for all of your hard work and your time and your efforts and everything. So it's wonderful.
Sure,
It
it
was
was
a
a very
great time at Bound for Glory.
emotional moment when you found out you were going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, yeah, because Dreamer had to like lie to us for a little bit, which he told my mom at Bound for Glory. He felt really bad for doing. Um, but yeah, we were under the impression that we were just going to be doing like a signing at the show and that maybe they were going to have us come out at some part of the show, distract somebody and then whatever. And we are like, easy night, you know? And then so then they wanted to do that Zoom call, to kind of talk about like what Bound for Glory means to us and you know, whatever. And then the surprise popped out and I went from 0 to 1,000, 0 to 1,000. Like not, they got us hook, line and sinker. Like not an eighth of a percent of us thought that that was going to be coming. So that was just like pure elation and emotion and shock and surprise and all the things all at once.
Having a career like you have had, being in the Hall of Fame, being a multi-time world champion, if you had any advice to give to anybody getting into professional wrestling, what would it be?
Um, well, it helps to actually have a pure love for it because it takes a lot out of you. And you can't do it unless you absolutely love it. And I always tell people you have to have a thick skin. You have to have a thick skin because you're always going to be criticized. You're always, and just, you just kind of gotta figure out what's right for you, because you're going to have somebody telling you should do this and somebody else is going to be telling you should do this. And and Tom Pritchard always called it flavors of ice cream. So you're going to have 8 different flavors of ice cream in a bowl. And do you mash it all together and try to make a new flavor? Or do you just take your 2 favorite flavors and just eat those and work with that and just throw the rest away? So I always say you've got to have a thick skin. You've got to have a love for it. You have to work hard. You can't not work hard. It takes a lot to learn how to do this. What's up, dude?
Can I have my burger again?
Sure. You guys want to come say hi real quick?
Yeah.
Your
Hello.
video game hair.
Hello.
This is Brian. This is my son, David.
Mom, I'm wearing jeans while I have a pajama shirt.
I know. We only got you half dressed before I started. Can you give me 2 minutes?
Yeah,
I'll
sure.
get your Burger King out of the fridge. Okay?
All right.
All right, cool. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks.
So this is my new life now. Has been for a while. But yeah, you gotta love it. You gotta work hard. And just, if it really means everything to you to be this, then you have to pursue it. You have to pursue it 1,000%. You have to get yourself out there. You have to travel. You have to put in the effort. You gotta be respectful. That's something that's, interestingly enough, a lot of entitlement has seemed to come up in the industry these days, of people who have not been doing it for very long, thinking that they're owed the entire world. And I don't know if this is an old school thought process at this point, but like, it just does not work that way. Doesn't work that way. But yeah, you got to get yourself out there and you got to work hard.
Where can people reach out to you at?
Oh, all my socials except for Facebook, that's private. Actual A-Love is my Twitter. A-Love, the number 4 life 222 is my Instagram. That's probably about it.
I just want to say thank you for taking the time out. Thank you for what you've done for professional wrestling. Congratulations on your induction. It's truly,
Thank
truly
you.
deserved. And I
appreciate
truly
that.
appreciate you taking the time out to come on today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And if there's ever anything that I can do, please feel free to reach out.
Will do. Thank you.
you.